without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Welcome back, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Wednesday, you're over the hump. Woo! So, the deal, well, it's kind of a punt right now, as it will be funded through January 15th. And the borrowing authority until February 7th. Great reporting from Chad Groening, as well as Chris Woodward from OneNewsNow.com, American Family News. Pete Sepp delivering how many billions of hours? Wow, it's a lot. Yeah, that's what regulation does. It says, I put another law in the book, we have to comply, and the cost, where does that cost go? Well, either hits the business to the point where there's less capital, there's less profit, and you got to comply, and that increases costs. So what do? You hire less, you charge more. What do? Okay, you get it. How do we get here? This was about President Obama and Obamacare. This is how it started. And I know that we're getting this today from the likes of Ted Cruz, who I think should be lauded for his efforts. And I think he is making a difference. I think this is an ongoing thing. It's a momentum. It's a fluid situation to the degree that, like any battle in a long war, there are advances. Sometimes you get pushed back. Here's Ted Cruz speaking to, would he delay the vote? Would he do a non-filibuster? He was asked that. Yeah, it's true. Roll it.
There have been many questions about the timing of this vote. The timing of this vote, it is my understanding from leadership, is likely to occur today. I have no objections to the timing of this vote. And the reason is simple. There's nothing to be gained from delaying this vote 1 day or 2 days. The outcome will be the same. Every senator, every member of the House is going to have to make a decision where he or she stands. But there's no benefit. I've never had any intention of delaying the timing of this vote. And indeed, I thought it was interesting reading in the papers that much speculation about whether we might delay the timing of the vote. Republican leadership never asked if I intended to delay the timing of the vote. My focus is on the substance. My focus is, I think, where the American people's focus is, which is what are we doing to provide real relief to the people who are hurting because of Obamacare. And unfortunately, today, the answer is the United States Senate and the Washington establishment is doing nothing to provide relief for the millions of people who are hurting because of Obamacare.
He really came out and ripped the Senate earlier in that comment. And he spoke of the establishment and the undercutting and not being surprised at, hey, when people have their turf, they're going to defend it. And their turf would have to be their political futures. Politicians are no different than us. We think about that. Oh, am I going to have a job next time? My job's up for review in 2 years, every 2 years, and my job's up for every 6 years here. Am I going to be able to stay in office here? It's a pretty good gig. That impacts. No, it's government, Crane. The wings halo. Doesn't happen. No. The left believes that, by the way, unfortunately. At least that's what the fruits of their policies and their ideology certainly speak to. That said, how we got here. How did we get here? Remember, what caused the Tea Party to come up and become a force? Well, it wasn't Obamacare for that. Actually, it had been there with a government that had been spending more than it took in and was intervening in the economy and overstepping, intergenerational theft, the frustration with that, obviously. But when we came to Obamacare, there was a way for people to come together on one issue because it was such an overreach. It was such a 1/6 of the economy. It has everything to do with our lives and people making decisions about that, being forced to purchase a product, even if we don't want it. So how on earth did he convince the American people President Obama to accept this. Roll it.
A lot of people worry that what you're going to wind up with is hash. There's even some Democrats saying, no, we've got a bill that's so compromised that it's not worth signing.
If we don't pass it, here's the guarantee. Your premiums will go up. Your employers are going to load up more costs on you. Potentially, they're going to drop your coverage because they just can't afford an increase of 25, 30% in terms of the cost of providing health care to employees each and every year. And the federal government will go bankrupt because Medicare and Medicaid are on a trajectory that are unsustainable. And this actually provides us the best chance of starting to bend the cost curve on the government expenditures of Medicare and Medicaid. So anybody who says that they are concerned about the deficit, concerned about debt, concerned about loading up taxes on future generations, you have to be supportive of this health care bill, because if we don't do this, nobody argues with the fact that health care costs are going to consume the entire federal budget.
For individuals purchasing and looking at premiums going up, Ovik Roy speaks to 65 and 97, or 67 and 95%, believe women, men, respectively, when it comes to premium increases. We see an average overall in premium increases across the nation of 24%. That can go up to 40%, by the way, in that range. So what he told you, oh, yeah, it was 100% off in the cost estimate, and it exacerbates all the problems he's talking about. So why? What happened there? He's making a case, hey, we've got to get the government to bend that cost curve. It's still just as ridiculous as it was when it was said and put forth. But nevertheless, they had the power. It wasn't about convincing people. It was having the power, because the more he spoke, the less popular it got. That's the thing. He wasn't moving the dial. And that's part of this, because they get it in reverse. It's the idea to say, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pass it, and then we're going to convince you that it's the right thing to do. Or we're going to pass it and then find out what's in it. Roll it.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it, away from the fog of the controversy.
So that's a pretty significant comment. And what have we seen from this? Well, 50% of the deadlines have been missed. We've had selective enforcement, business versus individual, and then we have the exchanges that are a complete cluster mess. But the good news is people are being held accountable. Robert Gibbs spoke to that, former press secretary to the president. And surprisingly, he had this to say about the exchanges. Roll it.
Is excruciatingly embarrassing for the White House and for the Department of Health and Human Services. This was bungled badly. This is not a server problem, right? Like just too many people came to the website. This is a website architecture problem. I think it is, again, it's excruciatingly embarrassing. It's not fatal, because there are still many weeks and days to go before the enrollment period closes at the end of March. I give credit to Al Hunt in his column today. I thought he had an interesting statistic that in the Massachusetts healthcare rollout, people came on average 18 times to the Marketplace website before they signed up for insurance. This is not iTunes. I hear a great album, I'm going to go buy it, boom, I buy it, and it's a one-time easy transaction. This is healthcare, and it's very involved. People are going to take their time with it, but boy, if they don't get these glitches figured out fast, people aren't going to come back for visits 15 through 18. And I will say this, I hope they're working day and night to get this done, and when they get it fixed, I hope they fire some people that were in charge of making sure that this thing was supposed to work. We knew there were going to be some glitches, right? But these are glitches that go, quite frankly, way beyond the pale of what should be expected.
So Ed Henry asked Jay Carney about that, because it involves accountability, right? You have accountability in your life. You do. Yeah, if you don't do your job, if you mess up, well, maybe you'll be forgiven, but if you don't correct the mistake, if you don't take action on it, if you have 3 years to produce something and it has glitches, and you know it has glitches, not conspiratorial, but reality. They didn't want to see the real cost without the subsidy. That's why they did it. I'll get to that a little later. So he was asked about that. White House press secretary, he speaks for the president, Ed Henry, asked a question before he went into the cold zone of not being called on. And here is Ed Henry asking Jay Carney about Robert Gibbs' comment. Roll it.
The Secretary does have the full confidence of the President. She, like everyone else in this effort, is focused on our number one priority, which is making the implementation of the Affordable Care Act work well. And people are working 24/7 to address the problems and isolate them and fix them when it comes to the website and enrollment issues. The fact is, the President wants these matters addressed because he wants to make sure that Americans across the country have the best possible consumer experience.
Okay, so no, there's not going to be, no, full confidence, of course. Remember the legal reasoning? I could have played that for you. Trey Gowdy just going, what was the legal, where do you find this? Did you consult the Justice Department? Did you, no, not at all. No. And crafting the law, no, we're not going to consult. Why would we consult the Constitution to understand it? No. Well, when will the exchanges be fixed? I mean, give us a date when, hey, they're going to be complete. Roll it.
Those are all questions for HHS and CMS. I can tell you that at the President's direction, people are working 24/7 to resolve the problems that have arisen and taking steps to make sure that those many millions of Americans who are interested in the options available to them to purchase affordable health insurance, in many cases for the first time, have the best consumer experience possible. And there are a lot of people hard at work on this, but for details of the work being done and the process in place, I'd refer you to HHS. Thanks, everybody.
So was this a bad strategy? 1-888-589-8840. Here's the question. It's not if it's a bad strategy or not. 1-888-589-8840. The question is this. Are you more inclined to get involved in politics, in activism, if you will, organizing, being part of it, less inclined, or about the same after what has taken place? Are you going to get engaged more, less, or the same? 1-888-589-8840. Mika Brzezinski and Representative Sean Duffy, yes, the one who gave a lesson to a CNN reporter, Andrea Mitchell, MSNBC reporter, last week. We covered it on Beat the Press with the great Chris Woodward. Awesome. So here's a response, and I'll take your calls right after this. 1-888-589-8840. More engaged, less engaged, same in regard to the budget battle in the sense of the CR and the debt ceiling and the deal that has been made. He starts off in this interview saying, hey, my mother-in-law or my mom is liberal, and she loves you, Mika. And, well, it went from there. Roll it.
And Mika, I got to tell you, my mom is a good liberal, and she loves you, and she's happy I'm on your show. But I think you're part of the problem. And you're part of the problem because the Republican caucus sometimes can be unreasonable, but look how far we've moved. We said we want to defund it. Okay. Now we're going to delay it. And now we're just going to ask for some very simple tweaks and reforms. And if you actually called out your liberal guests and said, why won't you join Obamacare? If it's good for America, it should be good for you. So why, listen, if an American family can't sign up on the website, why are you going to tax them? That's not right.
You have a lot of good questions, but as part of the problem, as you so kindly put it, I will ask you very honestly.
I like asking you questions better, Mika, but okay.
It's fine. Do you not think that members of your party, especially in Congress and in the Ted Cruz group, are not imploding the Republican Party, big picture? Just big picture, politics. Put all this aside for a second. Are you guys not imploding?
Big picture, I think this was a horrible strategy. I came on your show and I said that. If we had allowed Obamacare to roll out and for 2 weeks America saw the dysfunction, and then as we roll into the debt limit and negotiate an increase, I think we would have got a 1-year delay because America would have said this is only the fair and right thing to do.
From a messaging standpoint, Congressman, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So see, your mother.
Okay, so the strategy was off, but we're still right on our point. That's what you take from that. 1-888-589-8840. Are you going to be more engaged, less engaged, or the same after this deal? Let's go to Jerry. I'm talking about the CR and the debt ceiling and the extensions of funding the government and borrowing authority. Jerry in Texas. Thank you, Jerry. Great to be with you. More or less or the same?
Actually, it's Gary, and I will be less involved. You know as well as I do that this will not affect our economy at all. It's just all smoke and mirrors by the president and his cabinet. We can pay our bills without having a new debt ceiling raised. But my question is how many of your listeners know that Obama signed a bill last Thursday for the no free speech zone in any political area where there's a Secret Service agent and a politician. They are not allowed any longer to speak their will about what their politics are on that person. It's a now
Okay,
federal...
well, I will check out that, and we will have we'll ask Hans von Spakovsky about that. Appreciate it. Let's stay on topic. 1-888-589-8840. 1-888-589-8840. And we go to Jeff in Kentucky. Jeff, are you going to be more engaged, less engaged, or is it pretty much the same after this battle?
I would like to be more engaged myself because I'm really not happy with the people that we elected. You know, I'm really not happy with them at all.
Yeah. And tell me this, when you're going to be more engaged, what is the most frustrating part of it for you, Jeff? It's hard to pick, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm conservative, and to me, I mean, I'm not into politics, but if I were a politician, if I could get up and speak to the American people when it comes to this health care, for me, you know, Medicare and Medicaid, they need to be fixed. And for the people that, you know, had pre-existing conditions and could not get insurance,
1%.
either Medicare or Medicaid, let them, you know, work that out with the government somehow, but leave everybody else alone.
Well said. Hey, Jeff, appreciate your point of view. And rather than taking over the whole system, why not fix what's broken and start taking the government out inevitably? That all said, appreciate you. 1-888-589-8840. And I have to get to my glasses. Ann from the great state of Texas, how are you?
Hello?
Yes. Are you going to be more engaged, Ann? Less engaged?
About the same because I don't have access to a computer, but I use my emergency prepaid minutes that I buy for my cell phone, and I get a hold of everybody I can by text messaging or calling them all over the country, and then I tell them to tell everybody at their church and everybody in their neighborhood, and they email and text everybody too.
That's awesome.
To get involved, and I used almost all my whole $45 worth of cell minutes on calling Washington all the last 3 weeks.
Well, you're using them now, and we are blessed. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you. Thank you so much, Ann. Hey, Thomas, Alabama, the great state of Alabama. Love you, Fairhope. Love you, Mobile. Tell me, Thomas, more or less or the same being engaged? Politics.
Well, I want to try to be more engaged, and hopefully that Governor Bentley of Alabama is going to get engaged and just tell Obama that Alabamians don't want it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting, Thomas, when we speak to the states and how they went the last election, it's a story the media does not like to cover. Because when you're starting to get more local, interesting things are happening, more conservative, closer to home. Let's go to David. Thank you very much, by the way. David in the great state of Kentucky. 1-888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. David, are you going to be more, less, or about the same in your engagement with politics and getting involved?
Absolutely more engaged.
All right.
I feel that there has been, I'm not for Obamacare. I do not want Obamacare I'm a Republican. I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. However, I believe that a lot of malice has came into play recently. I think that there are a lot of people that do not feel the effects of the government shutdown. But at the same token, there are people that have. If a person's trying to sell a home right now and is waiting on an FHA or an RHA applicant, that has stopped, and it's stopped a lot. A railroad retirement, a person that is seeking to get railroad retirement, that has stopped as well. The government is not a bargaining chip, and nor should it be used as so.
So to punish your enemies, people who are elected don't have the right to do that with the government.
Absolutely not. And I think that we've experienced that throughout the past 10 or 12 years, more so than we have before that. And I think that it's more of a liberal approach, utilizing the government as a bargaining chip as opposed to a conservative approach. So is it fire to fire? Yes, but things aren't fair and life isn't fair. And just because one person does something that you do not like, you do not use everything in your artillery to fight back. Some things are inappropriate.
And David?
Yes.
Well said. And if we had a press that was exposing it, like if a Republican would have done this, which I would be just as much for, by the way, if a Republican got in there and was punishing and seeking to make it more painful and to not allow resolutions that were passed to be able to pass those to make sure the funding got to particular groups, well, I got to tell you, I would be just as outraged at the press that they didn't do it. I have a feeling they would, though. That's the thing. David, appreciate you. Thank you very much for your service. Honored that you listened to the broadcast. Have a great night, my friend. And, by the way, God knows you. God loves you. He created you. The state did not create you. You're an individual. Think about that for a second. You're an individual. You're unique. You have gifts. You believe in God. Many of you do. Many of you are getting there. Thank you for listening, by the way. And remember, do you want the state to be your daddy? The state's a bad daddy. Like a drug dealer. Gets you hooked and then, well, takes advantage. So, live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, and always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. Go to the Facebook page, like the Facebook page, interact. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk. Thanks.